Welcome back to 1950s News. I'm your reporter, Parker Mcdonald. Today we will be continuing this week's topic of females making history. Today's amazing female is Rosalind Elsie Franklin. Rosalind was born in London, England, 1920. Rosalind Franklin recently produced the X-ray crystallography pictures of bDNA. This invention was used by Watson and Crick to determine the structure of double-stranded DNA.
Striking feature about the structure of DNA is its helical shape. Specifically, it's a double helix with two strands wrapped around each other like a spiral staircase. The entire structure looks like a twisted ladder, with a sugar phosphate backbone forming the outer uprights of the ladder, and nitrogenous bases forming the inner rungs. This elegant structure enables DNA to fulfill its two major biological functions, replicating itself and storing genetic information. A good way to understand the structure of DNA is to build a molecule of DNA from its base unit, the nucleotide. A strand of DNA is a chain of nucleotides. The entire genetic blueprint for all life is encoded in different sequences of 4 nucleotides along a DNA strand. In a DNA strand, the deoxyribose sugar of a nucleotide connects to the phosphate of the nucleotide in front of it. Like its constituent nucleotides, each strand of DNA has an orientation, a 5' back and a 3' front. Let's take a look at the molecular structure of a DNA strand to see how the nucleotides are linked together. The 3' carbon in the sugar of each nucleotide connects with the phosphate of the nucleotide in front of it. As a result, like a single nucleotide, a DNA strand has a 3' front end and a 5' back end. If we follow our nucleotide car analogy, we can visualize a DNA strand as a chain of cars. The 3' grill of one car is linked to the 5' trailer hitch of the car in front of it. DNA is a double-stranded molecule consisting of 2 chains of nucleotides connected to each other by bases. Note that the 2 strands in a double-stranded DNA molecule are oriented in opposite directions. In forming a double strand, adenine on one strand is complementary to or pairs with thymine on the other strand, and cytosine on one strand is complementary to or pairs with guanine on the other strand. Complementary base pairing, A to T and C to G, is the principle upon which both DNA replication and the polymerase chain reaction are based. Let's take a closer look at the bonds connecting the bases of the 2 DNA strands. Complementary base pairs are held together by hydrogen bonds. Hydrogen bonds are strong enough to hold 2 strands of DNA together, but weak enough to be broken by enzymes in DNA replication or by heat in the polymerase chain reaction.
Rosalind Franklin is extremely intelligent and knew by age 15 that she wanted to be a scientist. Her father actively discouraged her interest in becoming a scientist since it's so difficult for women to have such a career. Luckily, Rosalind attended St. Paul's Girls' School, one of the few institutions that teaches physics and chemistry to girls. Afterwards, Rosalind entered Cambridge University in 1938 to study chemistry. Rosalind eventually moved to Paris where she learned X-ray diffraction techniques from Maurice Wilkins. In 1951, Franklin was offered a 3-year scholarship to King's College in London. Franklin was to set up and improve the X-ray crystallography unit at King's College. Recently, Franklin and Wilkins published papers on their X-ray data in the same issue with Watson and Crick's papers on the structure of DNA. What an amazing discovery! Well, that's all we have time for today. Next week, we will talk about a new comic strip coming out called Charlie Brown and the Peanuts, as well as the invention of color TV. Thanks for tuning in to 1950s News, and goodbye now.